Hey everybody, welcome to Design30. If you're enjoying these tutorials, make sure that you like and subscribe. Okay, so today we are back in Fusion 360, still going through an introduction to some of these tools. So not going to get too in depth, but again, just trying to expose you to a lot of the different tools and options that you have in Fusion 360, where they're located, and just some of the basics of how to use it. So today we will be going through the Fillet Tool and the Chamfer Tool. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to start by creating a sketch and just create a really basic part that we can start building off of and start showing how to use both the fillet and the chamfer tool. One thing that took me a while to learn when I was first learning some 3D CAD software, that it's fillet and not fillet. It's spelled the same way as fillet, but that is not the correct way to pronounce it. And if you pronounce it that way, you may or may not get made fun of. So don't be like me. Don't pronounce it that way. Pronounce it fillet when you're referring to 3D CAD, or if you're talking to mechanical engineers, that is the proper way to use the word. So there's just a little fun fact for you, something to keep in mind. Here, just creating a little rectangular box, something to demonstrate on. Okay, so if we're starting with this, and let's say we want to add some fillets. So what is a fillet? It's essentially a rounded corner. This could be or a rounded edge. It could be on the outside of a feature. It could be on an internal pocket. These are a few things that I'll show you real quick in this tutorial. So let's click on that. And there's two ways you can go about this. Well, there's a lot of ways you can go about this in Fusion 360. But a quick way is if you know that you want every edge to get a fillet, you can click the top surface, and then you can change the radius of the fillet right here. So you can see by clicking that top surface, I can easily just add a fillet to all of those edges. Or if I don't want to do it that way, maybe I just want to add, well, let's do this. Maybe just add a fillet to each of these corners or these edges of the box. And do that. Okay, let's say, there, we want 1/2 inch fillet on that. So you can click it edge by edge, and you can see here that your selection set is 4 edges. Again, if we go back to selecting faces, and you can select multiple of these, you'll also see that your selection set is these faces. Then you can specify your radius here. Whoops, I added an extra period there. Let's go 1/4 inch, and boom, you got those. You can also add more selection sets. So I'll demonstrate this real quick. Let's actually delete those. Let's say we want these corners, these edges to be the ones we want to fillet first. Okay, so that's our first selection set. Let's make that 1/4 inch. Whoops, not 25 inches. Obviously that threw an error because 25 inches is a massive radius compared to the size of this part. Okay, let's add another selection set, and then I could click this top face, and let's say I want that to be 0.5. And there, you can see I've added these fillets. Using just the same feature, I could add multiple fillets using different selection sets. So that's a really quick and easy way to add fillets to external edges and corners. But let's look at what it looks like to add it to a pocket. So let's delete that. Let's create a pocket here, create another sketch on that top surface. Just gonna create a little bit of a random size pocket. There we go. I'm not even gonna put dimensions on this. I'm just gonna immediately go to an extrude cut. Okay, we've got a pocket in this piece. And in the future, I'll go through how to use fillets from a manufacturability standpoint. When you're designing parts to be machined, CNC milled, things like that, these fillets actually become incredibly important and are driven by the depth of your pockets, the depth of your cut, what size of tool you want to use, things like that. Whether you're using a square end mill or a ball end mill, there's a lot of different ways you can go about that. So we'll get into that more in a different video. Again, this is more just how to use the tool, kind of the basics of it. So here, again, you can click this face. Maybe I'll do 0.1 for that, internal radii. Boom. Added just a little radius on the inside of that. And then again, I can keep adding these. I can create just a whole new fillet, a new feature if I want to. Go in here. This is as opposed to just adding a new selection set. So multiple ways of going about it. Here, let's go 0.25. And there are some internal radii, or some internal fillets. Okay, so let's look at the chamfer tool. So the chamfer tool, this is essentially adding a bevel to the edge of these different, of the box, the edges of this feature that I created, this body. And as you can see here, since I already filleted the corners, this will actually select this all of the edges all the way around. And I can add a nice bevel to that, a nice chamfer, 0.1, and boom. And this works in a very similar way. You can, if I go back and edit that feature, I can add another selection set. Maybe here I want to actually chamfer these outer corners. Okay, going through all of these, 0.25. So this is starting to turn into a bit of a funky part. But these are the different ways you can use these tools. And again, there are certain manufacturability considerations you'll want to make when using these. Sometimes they will be for more aesthetic purposes. There's a lot of different reasons why you might want to choose a chamfer versus a fillet. A chamfer can be a really good way just to do an edge break around something. So let's demonstrate that real quick, actually. Let's just add a new feature here. And here we go. I'll just click all these edges, go all the way around the top here. And boom, let's just make this something kind of small, 0.025. And here you have just a very slight edge break. So if this were a machined metal part or something like that, and you want to make sure there wasn't a sharp edge on the top here, this might be a way you could go about it, just adding this small edge break on the side there. So that's essentially what you can do with chamfers. There are some more different types of chamfer. You can do equal distance. You can also do two distance or distance in an angle. So I'll demonstrate one of those or a different variation of that real quick. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to select multiple of these. Actually, I'm just going to select the chamfers. Let's go ahead and get rid of those and start fresh. So go back up into modify, click chamfer. Let's change this to two distances. Okay, then let's click this line here. And so now it selects all of the edges for you, and you can specify two different distances. So let's say I want one to be 0.25. Let's make that a little smaller just based on the part we have. There we go. And then you can select this other one, and we can make that 0.5. And you can see how that changed the angle of the chamfer itself. So it went 0.5 down. Let me pull that back up. Half an inch down, and then 0.15 inches or 150 thou out to the side. So this way you can just add different distances to different directions. You can grab the arrows and pull it out, and that kind of helps you see how this tool functions or how this type functions. Go deeper. Again, there's going to be some manufacturability implications of this, but for the sake of just understanding how the chamfer tool works, this is a good way to just mess around with and understand how to use this two distance type of chamfer. Okay, so that is all that we have for this tutorial. Pretty basic, going over fillets and chamfers. Again, in the future, I'm going to go into how you can use these to make your parts more manufacturable. But for now, give it a shot. Start messing around with the chamfer tool and the fillet tool, and just make sure you understand completely where to find these and how to use them. And that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. As always, remember, design more, despair less. Thanks for watching.